All right, class. First up, as always, good morning, good day. Um, Here's the thing. Today, we are going to go over the actual slave trade. Um, Now, here's the thing. We're going to go into detail about how the trading went, what went where, and what each um, like country got. Okay, so be sure you have the packet. If you don't have the packet, you can use lined paper. Just again, be sure you put down warm up notes, um, the question, answers, things like that. So that way I can see where each section is. Okay, so without further ado, let us begin. All right, so here is your warm up. Now, in front of you is a picture. Okay, what you're going to do is analyze it. What do you see? All right, so create a list of things you see. Now, again, this is not one of those pictures that have a lot of things in the background. It's very basic, but it's very powerful. Okay, so first, create a list of things you see. Second thing, um, what's going on? What is this picture basically telling you? Um, think to yourself, um, the importance. What seems to have more importance? Um, Put yourself in the people situation. Okay. So once you got all that written down, go ahead and let's get ready for the notes. Okay. So there's this thing called the triangle trade. Now, if you look to the picture on your right, you will see the actual triangle trade, okay, between Europe, Africa, and North America. Um, North America would consider the Caribbean islands as well. Okay. Now here's the thing: the triangle trade occurred between again Europe, Africa, and it wasn't known as North America just yet, but they called it the New World. That's what it was called. Um, Now, if you look on the map, you can see items that would be sent to Africa would be guns, cloth, iron, beer, things that were sent to the New World would be manufactured good and luxuries. Okay, so things like dresser would probably be considered that. Tools, would be considered that. That would be sent from Europe to America, and then guns, cloth, beer would be sent to Africa. Now, Africa would send out um, gold, ivory, spices, and hardwoods to Europe, and to the New World, it would just be slaves. All right, because again, you have to remember that's where we had the sugar cane plantations. We have different type of plantations going on in the New World. Okay, um, now here's the thing: they would send them to South America as well. Right, there were ships that went to South America. But for in this example right now, we're using just the New World, North America. Okay. Now, the New World, they would supply different things. Okay. To the Africans, they would send rum, iron, gunpowder, cloth, tools, right? To the Caribbean, they would send fish, livestock, flour, lumber, you know, and to what's it called Europe, they would send uh, whale oil, lumber, furs, rice, silk, tobacco. That was a huge one. Sugar, molasses, right from the Caribbean islands. Now, the Caribbean islands, they would actually partake in this, even though technically they were part of the New World. They would send to the North Americans slaves, sugar, molasses, because again, that sugar plantation was huge, huge in the Caribbean islands. So that's what they would send to basically the Europeans and North America. Okay. Now, the thing is, you have to remember the Africans to the New World. We again, you can say they needed the slaves for the manual labor. Okay, because again, there was new territory, new lands, and to do the manual labor, they didn't want to do it themselves. They needed cheap labor, so that's why the slave trade was huge. And you have to remember this too. In Europe, it wasn't that big, the slave trade, that they had auctions and things like that there. But instead, gold, ivory, materials, things that they were running out of that they no longer had in Europe, that's what they wanted more. Okay, so just remember that. It's what each side wants more. It's what they got. Okay, so here's the thing. Before we move on to King Afonso, uh, I forgot to mention this in the last slide. That you have to remember that the slaves that were sent to the Americas, the New World, they were not captured by um, the slave traders, the Portuguese and the Dutch and things like that. No, that wasn't them. They were the ones had the ships. The people who were actually capturing them, those were other Africans. Okay, so different kingdoms were around in Africa, and what they would do is they would go to war, um, expand their territories, and if they conquered somebody, it was like, why kill them when we can have them as slaves? And then when the white people come, we can sell them to them, and we can get different things, guns, gunpowder, you know, rum, whatever we need, So really, the whole myth of the white people coming over and just throwing a net and things like that, no, that's not what happened. Okay. Um, Now the thing is, the kings that were conquering, they were the ones who got rich. They were the ones who profited the most. Not their subjects, not the people they ruled over, but them themselves. Okay. Now here's the thing. King Afonso, he was a ruler of the Kingdom of Congo, or Bakongo, as you can see on the screen there. Now, while they were under the rule of the Portuguese, he wrote a letter to the king and asking him basically to stop the slave trade. Now, the thing is, he wanted it to stop because he noticed, you know what? Not only is my kingdom getting smaller, but the neighboring kingdoms are getting really small too. There's a really depopulation going on, because everyone's being sent out as slaves. They're conquering, and the thing is, the people they conquer, they're not incorporating them into the kingdom to expand it, to have more people. They're basically shipping them off. Okay, and thing is, yeah, you can have a large land, but if you don't have that much people, then what's the point? You know, so that was one of his biggest issues. Now the thing is, the Portuguese king, he basically was like, yeah, whatever. In one ear, out the other. And the thing is, he actually, and you can say maybe he got upset at King Alfonso. He actually increased the amount of ships to get slaves. Okay. Now, thing is, he actually even tried to assassinate King Alfonso, but it didn't work. All right. Uh, and the reason he did this is because he felt that King Afonso was actually holding out on his tribute, which was gold. So he's like, this guy's holding out on giving me the gold that we agreed on, so yeah, kill him, you know. And to the picture on the right, that's a picture supposedly of King Afonso. I've never seen him, so I'm basing it off what I found online. Okay. All right. So here is another thing that's not really talked about all too much. It's the area where the slave ships would come in. They were basically a slave port. Now, the thing is, a lot of these places went really bad, as time went on. All right, as you can see on the screen right there, the slave trade was so bad that cities were changed almost a complete 180. Now, in Benin, right there on the map right there, as you can see, uh, it's in the west side of Africa. It was known to be a brilliant and creative society in the 1500s, but then it became a slave town. Because if you look down at the bottom of it, there's a ports, right, where ships can come in, they could bring slaves down and ship them out. Now, the population declined, and warfare basically erupted in Benin. Now, the thing is, there are some things in us, in humans, that we hold on to that captures our humanity and things like that. One of the things is like religion. Another thing is like art, culture, um, and that's what happened. It ended up going away. People lost their faith. They they basically the whole purpose of art creating went out the window. There's like why do that? Their culture disintegrated, and basically human sacrifice was common. Now the thing is, basically, some Europeans, people from England, came by around the 1800s, and they found that the place was, I mean, just corrupt and brutal. I mean, it was like not a place to stay. Say, hey, we got 2 weeks for vacation. We should go to Benin. No, no. Now, the thing is, it took years for them to discover that they were once a brilliant culture that had been destroyed by slavery. All right. Now that's just figuring out like, wow, these guys were actually really smart 300 years ago. They were a very advanced society. Um, and if you look at this picture here on the map, this was actually something I got online. And you can see on the top it says the copyright 2018. Um, because this is something that is still to this day. There are areas you cannot go. And if you look on the map there, it says the red section says advised against all travel. They don't want you going there. That's like bad, bad place. The kind of goldish area, it says advised against all but essential travel. So maybe people like the UN or the Red Cross, people who were there to help. You know, that's the area that they would say, okay, there you could be maybe okay. And then the green is basically like, well, check with your travel guide, see if it's okay, know the laws, things like that. So still to this day, it's pretty bad. And that's for a culture that used to be very sophisticated at the time. And because of the slave trade, it changed them, and they're still to this day slowly coming back. But again, there's still some areas where it's not advised you should go. All right. So that's the end of this lesson. There is no end question, I'm sorry to say, but that's it. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new today. Now, as always, make sure that your name is on your paper and that when you turn it in, that you turn it into the basket near the door. Do not hand it to me, please. All right, do not put it on my desk. It will get lost. Okay? Put it in the basket next to the door as soon as you come in. All right? So, like I said, that's it. I hope you learned something new. Hope you guys have a good day. Take care and be safe.